Thank you for tuning into podcast number 48 of Sports Talk with JWock. I am your host, Jonah Walkenfoos, and today I will be joined by two special guests to talk about the Denver Broncos because it's fun to be able to talk about your favorite team in the NFL. So if you want to hear more about that, make sure to stay tuned. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Sports Talk with JWock. This is episode number 48, and I'm joined here with my older brother Corey and my dad. How are you guys doing today?
Not too shabby.
Not bad, thank you.
Okay, so as the viewers know, I'm personally a Broncos fan, and obviously you guys are Broncos fans. You guys are probably bigger Broncos fans than me, I would say. At first, I want to ask my dad this. What caused you to love the Denver Broncos?
Probably moving to Colorado Springs when I was 2, and my dad watched it all the time, and I always just watched the Broncos, loved them. So,
Corey?
I really don't know. I think I was just born into it.
That's fair. That's honestly how I was too. And I guess we'll stay with you, Corey, on this one. Who is your favorite Denver Bronco player of all time? Like, no matter what era.
Von Miller's definitely up there, but it's got to be Champ Bailey.
I think my favorite player is got to be Steve Atwater. Love the way he hit in his contact, playing safety.
Okay, so now we're going to get into a little more deeper questions, I guess. So last season, the Broncos made the playoffs for the first time since 2015.
Yep.
How, like, based off of like a rating from 1 to 10, how do you rate last season? And then to follow that, out of 1 to 10, how do you rate how optimistic you are going into this upcoming season?
From 1 to 10 last season, I'd probably give it a 6.5 for last season. Going into this season with the moves they've made so far, I'm going to give it about an 8.
I would think that 6.5 is a little low for how they did. I think they exceeded expectations.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, before the year even started, they were saying the Broncos were going to go 4 wins. And they were saying Bo Nix is a bust. I truly don't know if Bo Nix is that guy just yet, but he is that guy since Peyton Manning. We haven't had a quarterback as good as Peyton Manning. So honestly, I'd probably say about a 7. Not a 6.5, but a 7. And then going into this next year, how optimistic I am. Every year I'm optimistic, but honestly, I think this is the best team they've had since 2015. Not as good, not even close, but I'd probably give them an 8.
I will say it's not that hard to have as good, like the second best team since 2015, because the Broncos have been horrible.
I agree.
But yeah, I mean, I think the Broncos, I would give it like an 8 last season because they exceeded expectations. They did better than everybody thought. Bo Nix was one of the runners-up for Rookie of the Year. Patrick Surtain, you got Defensive Player of the Year, which the Broncos have not had in a while. I don't even remember the last time a Broncos player won Defensive Player of the Year. This offseason overall feels like kind of an offseason they used to do when John Elway was in office, where they add a bunch of defensive talent and just keep on beefing it up, and it just feels like we're going to probably have the best defense in the NFL if healthy. So I don't know. That's just my opinion, but I guess the next question we could ask is, based off of this offseason so far, we just saw the Broncos signed a punter, so I guess that's good. If you were to give a grade like A through F, how would you grade the Broncos offseason?
So far, I'd probably give them just going off the years since 2015, I'd probably give them a B minus. But I want to wait to see what they pick up in the draft because that's really where they're going to get better.
I'd have to give them a B, probably. And the only reason why it would be that high is because they got their inside linebacker they've needed. They've needed that for years. So,
do you think the health of Dre Greenlaw and Hufanga can play a big part of that, though? Like, do you think that's why they're not an A? Because they filled in the positional needs with two very good players, but the problem with those two players are their injury history. Is that why you're at a B?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. If they're healthy, they're going to be tough to beat.
And we also never mentioned Evan Ingram being signed.
Well, right, but that inside linebacker has been haunting the Broncos forever now. So
I would also debate the tight end because Evan Ingram has more receiving yards than our tight ends in 2 years combined. I don't know, like
the Broncos haven't had a tight end this good. We haven't seen him play with Bo Nix yet, but we haven't had a tight end this good since 2013, 2014, Julius Thomas. Every other tight end has been a key piece, but we haven't had a stud like Evan Ingram can be.
And I think that's the biggest word or phrase for the Broncos is this team can be good. They just aren't. We don't know if they're going to be healthy or not.
I think you could say that about every team, though. Right now, as long as they're healthy, we'll see what happens. But
it's true.
I think they picked up some good guys. I think they were smart. So
if I were to give a grade, I'd be an A, just because I think they filled in every positional need they personally need other than running back and maybe another wide receiver. But even then, the wide receiver room's not horrible. I'm not content with it, but yeah, that's just my thoughts. And let's follow up with that. Is there another player or position you think the Broncos could add in free agency before the draft, or do you think they should just go into the draft?
I think there's a couple running backs out there they could probably get.
Which do you have any in mind?
Oh, I can't remember the one they were talking about.
I can name the ones that.
Yeah, go ahead.
So I would probably say the most notable are J.K. Dobbins and Nick Chubb.
I would say Dobbins. I think he could come in and be a good asset to the offense.
Truthfully, I would love to get a running back through free agency, but at the same time, we can't pay him a lot because they're going to be probably the third string running back. We got Audric Estime. I want the kid from North Carolina. I forget his name, but the running back from North Carolina, he's a stud. And then if Genty falls to 20, because we all know George Payton, he's not going to trade up in the draft. He just has never done that. But if we do pick up a running back in the free agency, he's not going to get paid much, and he's going to be a third string running back, even possibly a practice squad player.
That's very valid, and I'm actually going to look up the name of that North Carolina running back because
I'm pretty sure
is it Hampton?
Amarian Hampton.
Amarian Hampton. I think.
Okay, yeah, that's.
Yeah.
And they've actually said
he's a legit.
They've actually shown there's signs of Nick Chubb in him.
Yeah.
So, or comparisons, I guess. So, I mean, that would be a good running back. But I don't know. There's also been talks about that Arizona wide receiver. I don't remember his name. Mel Kiper, I think, just put out that they were going to draft, or there was talks that, he would go down to the Broncos in a mock draft, which I wouldn't mind either. I am not against getting another wide receiver. I personally am one of the persons that thinks the Broncos should beef up their wide receiver room, but.
Well, that wide receiver that they're talking about, I think he's pretty tall. He's a big wide receiver.
I think 6'4".
So you're, a defense to try to guard Cortland Sutton, and then that wide receiver would be tough, and then having our new pickup come across the middle, tight end, that could be something else.
So is we're all Michigan fans for football. Is Loveland out of the picture then? If Loveland's there, because I think he probably will be there. I don't see a team picking him up. I think that Warren's going to be picked up before him.
I love Loveland, but at the same time, the last time Michigan had a really good tight end and Jake Butt, the Broncos drafted him and he barely even played. So I'm a little worried about that. At the same time, I don't think the Broncos are going to get a tight end. If they in the draft, if they do get a tight end, it's going to be in the later rounds. But they have to go for a running back or just an overall offensive weapon in the first round at pick 20.
So if they don't pick up a running back in the first round, is there like one in the later rounds? I mean, there's Cam Boo, I think that's how he's a very notable player that could definitely fit into Sean Payton's offense. They also have, what's his name? He's the guy from Tennessee. Samson, I think that's his last name.
Yeah.
He would be a good option, I guess. You could also get Ohio State's Henderson. Now, who knows if he's going to fall to like the second round. But I don't know. I personally would like to just pick best available. I don't think picking a running back just because you have to pick a running back is the best idea. Because I do think Audric Estime is better than a lot of people think.
Well, I think if they... I agree with you with that. I will say this. If for some reason, and I don't believe he will be, because I think he's going to go to the Raiders at like 6 or 7. If he's there at 20 and you're saying best, you take Genty.
Yes.
If not, then yeah, it's best offensive player.
Well, yeah, Genty is by far would be the best available if he falls there, but I don't think he will.
No, I don't think he'll be.
I don't think if he doesn't get drafted by the Raiders, he'll probably get drafted by like the Bears or something. Like he's not falling to 20.
No.
And then I guess we could do another question. If we're going into next season based off of the teams right now, where do you rank the Broncos in the AFC West? So last year they finished third, behind the Chargers and the Chiefs. Now, I think personally the Chiefs got worse in this offseason. That doesn't mean they're going to be a bad team. And I think the Chargers also got pretty good adding up an offensive line, but the Chargers always charger every year. So I don't know. Where do you guys rank the Broncos?
Well, first off, the Chargers didn't charger last year against the Broncos, which sucks. But I don't know. I think the Raiders are going to suck either way. They got Pete Carroll. Yeah, they got Geno Smith. Geno Smith's an average quarterback. He's good, but he ain't going to put him over the top. Justin Herbert, he's a stud, but at the same time, he's been a stud his whole career and hasn't won a playoff game. Neither has Bo Nix, but Bo Nix he was a rookie last year. I think it's gonna you can't put the Chiefs at the bottom or even 2 or 3 or 4, just because unfortunately they're the Chiefs and they got Patrick Mahomes and they're just gonna be at the top until someone knocks them off in the AFC West. I think the Broncos can knock the Chiefs off. Is it this year? I hope so. But I would say in the next 2-3 years, the Broncos are going to be topping the Chiefs off. Even if they're splitting the season 1-1, they're going to be some good games.
I mean, that's almost what they were doing in 2015 too. They were splitting with them almost a lot.
Well, in 2015, the only reason they beat the Chiefs that one time was because the defense, and they got a turnover, and Bradley Roby ran it back for a touchdown to seal the deal. And then the next game, Alex Smith just absolutely torched us, and Peyton Manning got benched because he was throwing picks.
It's very true. Dad?
I think they could be a strong second this year. I think the Chiefs will be until you beat the Chiefs consistently, they got to stay number 1.
Yeah.
Pat Mahomes is Pat Mahomes, period. So
yeah.
As much as I don't like him, because he plays the Broncos, he's the man.
He's a good
right
quarterback.
Now, so.
And then the final question, I think this is probably the most heated question. I think a lot of people are very annoyed by the NFL commissioner, like I am with the NBA commissioner, Roger Goodell. Do any of you have some, PG thoughts on how Roger Goodell has run the NFL so far?
PG. Well, I'll just sum it up. He sucks. I don't like the way he runs things. I don't. Period. And I don't even think I could point to one thing. I just don't like the way he runs it. Period. The whole thing.
I think he's a decent commissioner because he does answer to the owners because that is his job. But at the same time, he's pushing through some rules that are just kind of getting rid of the game of football. Football is meant to be a violent, physical sport, and that's what people sign up for when they're little kids. But at the same time, it's like if you're getting penalties left and right for like just barely touching somebody, Roger Goodell's got to do something about that if he loves the game of football. Otherwise, it's going to turn into flag football. And yeah, I know he's trying to promote flag football throughout the United States, and I know flag football's getting brought into like high schools around the United States, which is cool because it gets girls into football as well. At the same time, like I said just a minute ago, it's a violent sport. You wear a helmet, you got shoulder pads. People sign up to play football knowing they're going to get hurt. No one is on that football field or on an NFL team thinking, oh, I'm never going to get hurt. I can't get touched. They're going to get hurt. They're going to get touched. Everybody's hurt by week 17 and week 18.
And I remember the Broncos-Bills playoff game last year. Brandon Jones got penalized for something real stupid. Like, what was it? Josh Allen threw to, I think it was Khalil Shakir or something like that. And, I mean, right to, what was his name? Brandon Jones.
Yeah.
And Brandon Jones hit him hard, but it was like, that's kind of Josh Allen's fault for throwing it there. Tom Brady in the podcast talked about how he would never throw to the middle of the field when he was playing against Ray Allen because Ray Allen would literally kill someone.
Yep.
And,
Ray
Lewis, sorry. Yeah, I don't know. Like, I think Roger Goodell's got to work on that stuff. And the fact that they can wear those, like, protective helmets or the extra padding, I guess is nice, but it's, like, also kind of weak.
I don't know the exact stat, but there was a stat that came out after last season that concussions have gone down wearing those paddings, but at the same time, it's like if you look on TV, I've never seen it in person, but if you look on TV, you can definitely notice the people wearing those, and they just look stupid. Because if you got a shiny helmet, let's say Tampa Bay Buccaneers, it's very, very noticeable if you have one of those Guardian caps on. Now, if you have a matte helmet like the Broncos do now, it's not as noticeable, but no one on the Broncos wore it.
I was going to say, I don't think that I remember the Broncos wearing one.
It's not part of the uniform. I get it in practice, but when you're in a game, be part of the uniform. And I think most NFL players understand that.
I mean, even Tua, he's had some head injury history, and he still never wore it.
No.
And he decided not to because he knew that it wasn't beneficial to him. And they have helmets literally designed for each player. Like, they literally make them molded around their head perfectly. It's like, there's no point of wearing those helmets. But anyways, do you guys have any other, like, thoughts or anything? Anything you want to say to the people watching this?
I just hope the Broncos are good this year.
Yeah, same thing. Just we'll see how they do. Want to see them improve, and we'll see where it goes. Like to see them in the playoffs again. That would be good.
Yeah,
so
I would too. Anyways, that's going to be the end of this episode. I'll be doing the outro right after this, but thank you guys for tuning in and coming here to be the guest for this episode. And I hope to have other people come in and talk with me as well. So that's going to be the end of this episode. Thank you for tuning in. And that is going to be the end of podcast number 48. I appreciate all of you for tuning in, and a special thanks to the guests that came onto this channel, Corey and my dad. I thank you guys so much for coming onto this podcast. It is just, I really appreciate you guys being here. I love having guests, so if you guys want to be added onto future episodes, and when I mean you, I mean the audience. If one of you guys wants to be on this podcast, whether that's virtually or in person, just let me know. I would love to get that scheduled for you. And if you want to check me out on all social media platforms, check me out on Instagram at sportstalkwith_JWock3. Check me out on Spotify at sportstalkwithJWock. Obviously, you're on YouTube, but you can check me out if you're listening on Spotify at sportstalkwithJWock. And You can check me out on TikTok at Sports Talk with JWock. Once again, I hope you all have an amazing week. God bless.